Hi, everybody. I'm here with Nick. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Well, hi, good, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what your health was like before you started on the carnivore diet.
Well, I guess the story goes back a few years. I used to compete in weightlifting and then powerlifting as I got a bit older. And I always, I competed in around the 105, 108 kilogram range. And I always, and over time, big, strong guy, you have to eat lots of carbs when you eat, when you train, you have to do all that kind of stuff. That was kind of the paradigm that I lived in. And over time, I started putting on weight. I was moving up weight classes, but that's because I was getting stronger, as you con yourself into believing. So I'd gone from then powerlifting 110 kilogram category. The categories changed. It became 105. So I had to move up to the 120s. And of course, then you convince yourself that you have to weigh 120 kilograms to compete, which is all a load of nonsense, really, when you look back at it. But that was where it was. So I started to get a bit chubbier. What I'll try and do is try and send some photos if you're interested. But you can see me when I was in my strong days. And then with all of that, my knees, I started getting issues with my knees, my ankles. I was, just getting up in the morning, starting to feel not great. So I was also working out of the country. I was on a fly-in, kind of roster, working in the Congo. And I had a go at low carb. It was about 2012 when I first had a go at it. I went, wow, this is quite cool. I dropped out the starches and my weight came down quite dramatically. But then kind of moved, that work assignment was finished, moved back, and my weight started to pick up again. I kind of peaked at around 123 kilograms. And when you wake up in the morning at 123 kilograms and walk the first few steps, it's almost agonizing. I was really starting to feel in around 2009, which is the last time I competed internationally in powerlifting. I'd also gone to see the doctor about my knees. He gave me a Synvisc injection. Cartilage wearing out. We were that was, knee operation into the future coming up, and I was trying to avoid that. So then I started to take the kind of low carb keto world seriously again, and I came down from 123 kilograms to about 103. I lost around 20 kilograms. That must be 50 something odd pounds. And then, that is quite cool. But and I think I was quite strict, but as you experiment with the diet and things, the weight had come down, but the knee pain hadn't gone away. Also started my own company. We've which is quite a stressful thing, and sleep became a bit of an issue, I guess. Stress, didn't sleep. So, and then I started to see my weight gain again. And I guess that's, from all that I read and understand, that's understandable, because if you're not sleeping, you become insulin resistant again. But the biggest issue for me was my shoulders were sore, my knees were sore. I wasn't training anymore because of work pressure and just general lethargy, I guess. I wasn't feeling great. And then I came across, I was watching a lot of low carb videos. I'm a bit of a video nerd in that sense. I kind of love to watch the presentations. And then there was some, the Carnivore conference in 2019 I saw. And there were some talks by Amber and Michaela Peterson, and her talk was, I was quite impressed by what she said. And one of the things that struck me was, she had really bad issues, but the resolution of her joint injuries and her joint pain and that sort of stuff really kind of stuck with me. So I was, okay, let's have a go at that. So I started, I don't know, it's August last year. I went, let's have a go. So I thought I'll try it for a week, see if I could do it. I wasn't sure if I could, do all the stuff. And I wasn't, you still, back of your mind, you have to eat vegetables. So I was a bit dubious, and I started. So the first week actually went remarkably well. So I thought, okay, we'll carry on. I'll go until the end of August. And then by the end of August, I started to feel a lot better. People at work, so going through September, probably October even, people at work started to comment that, oh, you're looking really good, Nick. You're looking well, you're looking healthy. I'd started to lose a little bit of weight, but the biggest thing for me was just by getting up in the morning and those first few steps not being agony, not having to take anti-inflammatories every other day because you saw. And then I started to see, so I can't remember when it was, end of September, beginning of October, I thought, okay, let me get really serious with this. And I cut the dairy and I kind of went, I guess, almost stage one. I still drink tea, but that's, but I drink it, green tea, I drink it without sugar or anything or that sort of stuff, obviously. But so I didn't go 100%, but I would say 99% carnivore. And I really started to feel good. The compliments would work, but also my mental clarity started to kind of really get better. I was quite impressed. I was quite amazed. I did with around about November at work, we had some insurance things. One of the things that I did find was that my LDL cholesterol had elevated. I got a total cholesterol of 7.2 or something for an insurance medical, which worried me a bit, but I went and found Dave Feldman's thing, that it's Feldman protocol, try to eat 5,000 calories a day. Have you ever tried that? I couldn't. Just eating meat, 5,000 calories a day, it was just, wow, it was way too, I couldn't eat that much food. And I'm a big eater. I've had an appetite my whole life. So that was, anyway, brought my score down, 6.5, I think I got it. The insurance, okay, that's fine. Everything else, the LDL was down, the HDL was up. And it was, so that is quite good. They gave me the insurance and then I was getting better. We then went on vacation holiday to, my brother lives in Canada. He lives on the West Coast on Vancouver Island. I spent a bit of time with him and it's quite, with exchange rates and stuff, I couldn't, and yeah, so the way it worked out, I couldn't eat totally carnivore. So we went back to keto with veggies, but it was amazing. Within about 4 days of starting that, and yes, I also reintroduced milk because we were it's the coffee culture. So I was having a lot of cappuccinos and things. I'm not sure which it is, the veggies or the dairy. And my knees started to hurt again. My ankles were inflamed again. So it was, okay, we kind of got through the vacation, came back to South Africa, and then got straight back into it. I was quite surprised. So effectively, my health had deteriorated over the time. I had hypertension. I had, I'm trying to think of all things. So I was kind of starting to have to use some asthma medications, an asthma pump. It is mostly allergic type reactions, but it was just getting worse and worse progressively. My knees and ankles. I think what else? And I had tinnitus, which, so I'm a private pilot. I fly little airplanes around for a hobby. It's the old joke. How do you know there's a pilot in the room? They'll tell you. So, so the tinnitus was starting to affect you have to do medicals every year. And it was starting to affect me. So, my hearing was dropping. I had to go and see an ENT specialist around it to see if there's something else they could do. And then with my elevated cholesterol, which I've had over for years, it had been elevated even before I started keto, although it kicked up when it was with keto. So I might be a hyper responder. I'm trying to figure that all out. So I went for my aviation medical. When I got back to South Africa in January, my tinnitus had cleared, my hearing had improved, my blood pressure had dropped to, actually when they did the test, I think on that day it was 115/70, to the point that the doctor then said, we really need to start taking you off your blood pressure medication, which is really cool, particularly given issues around hypertension and things with the coronavirus now. And he was so surprised by how my health and how much better I looked, the weight I'd lost. He was quite impressed. So my weight has now come down. I'm now around 95 kilograms as of on this morning scale. I stood there. So that's down. Where was I? I started 123, came down to 103, went back up to about 108. Because as you sort of your weight creeps up with all that not sleeping. And so again, now 95 kilograms, which is what I weighed when I got married when I was 28. So I'm quite pleased with that progress and the energy that I've kind of got. I don't know if it comes across in to you, but I I'm enjoying, I kind of get a much more zest for life. The one thing that was interesting is that with that very big weight loss that I was going through in January, my total cholesterol went up quite a lot. It was 8.9. I don't know what those are in the US units. It's supposed to be 5. So 8.9 is very high. And the doctor nearly fell off his chair. But because of all the other symptoms, all the other things coming right, he said to me, you know, I just told him I'm on a very strict keto diet. And he's like, okay, he can see that. And I think this very high cholesterol is associated with my weight loss. I'm burning body fat. I'm moving body fat around my body. And I persuaded him that that was okay. But for my own confidence, I went and had a CAC test, you know, the coronary arterial calcium test. And that came back with a total score of 1. But of the 5 arteries that they checked, 4 was 0. And it was just, what is it? Sorry, I've got it here. The left anterior descending had a thing of 1. And there was one tiny little spot in it. So that made me feel a lot better, because I was thinking, you know, with all this hike, you know, even though you know and you've read and seen and that you think this cholesterol thing is not worth the paper it's written on, people pay a lot of stead to it. And so it kind of intimidates you a little bit. And so I've started to really improve. And I think my aviation doctor passed me. He didn't actually ask me to go for any additional protocol testing. Everything was fine. The lung functions had improved, everything. So he was very impressed. I feel better. And so I think what I'll do with all these blood tests, I'll probably repeat them when my body weight stabilizes. I'm probably stabilizing now where I want to be, 93 to 95. I'm just getting to the top end of that range. And I think so that's that for me. The other thing that came up is some point in all of this, I felt like exercising again. I feel like going back to the gym. I feel like, so I started light body weight exercises, you know, just press ups and sort of under the table kind of chin up thingies. Nothing hard. I'm not in the shape I was, you know, 10 years ago, but from a strength point of view, but it's just, I felt like exercising again. And that is for me, yeah, feeling so much better. So that's kind of my, you know, my story and all of this sort of thing. So I'm really enjoying being on the carnivore diet. My biggest problems, I think, to answer the other question that you need me to ask is, or answer is, yeah, so when I first started, the usual kind of toilet issues. So one has to, you know, loose stools, I guess that's the right way of putting it. That does settle down. So for me, the first little while that did settle down, it got a lot better. It's still, every now and again, I still have to figure out exactly what happens. You know, there's a day where you go, wow, that popped out again. So, and listening to other people's interviews and things, I think I must just look at the amount of fat I'm having in the diet on the day and just try and see if I have a very fatty cut of meat, maybe that's what's causing it. And I'll try and work it out. So in terms of what I'm eating, mostly beef. So this, and I found actually eating steaks, I always thought, oh, I'll get bored of that. I do occasionally eat pork chops. That's kind of because it's far more affordable and cost effective for me here. But I do, and I'm trying to eat direct from the ranches. There's a guy who I'm buying directly from. He delivers it to our house, and it's grass fed and stuff. And maybe just adjusting to, you know, to that food as well, and the kind of the burger patties that I make from that, and the sausages. But mostly beef. I do make a chicken stock, or you know, a bone broth. The family still eat chicken, so when they finish with the chickens, then I'll make a bone broth, and I have that. I have a sort of a half a cup of that, or mug of that, depending how much I've got. And I think that, you know, just to make sure, and I put quite a lot of kind of salt and potassium salt into that, just to try and kind of make sure that my electrolytes sort out. And other than that, that's kind of where I am. So really enjoying this carnivore diet. I think I'll stay with it. We'll see. Just got to figure out the occasional loose stools, why that's still an issue. And then, yeah, and once this, so in South Africa, we've got complete lockdown. The country shut down for the coronavirus. You know, we're not allowed to go to work. You know, we're allowed to go to the grocery store, but in very limited numbers. It's kind of, I guess what it is, it's important in this country where we have so many people who are malnourished and such a poor infrastructure in terms of health. It's an important thing. So once that's kind of once we get on top of this shutdown, I'll definitely be going back to gym, starting to lift weights again. But in the meantime, hey, just some press ups and some things. Just keep doing that.
Wow, I love that. That's great. And so when did you start the carnivore diet? How long have you been on it?
Okay, so I started in August last year, August 2019. So that's 6 months. Really, really loving it. Before that, I was keto for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years, maybe a bit longer. I can't remember the exact timing on that. So I didn't have any of those cravings that people talk about, the carb cravings, the sugar cravings, because I'd kind of gotten rid of those by doing the keto. I found the transition into the diet really actually surprisingly easy. And the funny thing is I end up craving, by the end of the day, I'm looking forward to my steak. Funny thing, I like really go, I could do with a steak now. But you ate that this morning. Oh, you ate that yesterday. Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to my steak. So enjoying that.
That's great. And so what does your family think about your diet?
They sort of roll their eyes and they go, oh, Dad's adding, the kids particularly, I've got 3 boys, they're all in their late teens now. They sort of roll their eyes. Somewhat persuaded by, I think, by at least the keto part of the world. That is quite an interesting thing, just as a complete aside, switching to the keto diet for the family really made a big difference in our family life. A lot fewer blowouts from the kids. They used to have these kind of quite massive temper tantrums. Gone. They seem to, their health has improved. They all, they're the skinny guys at school now, that sort of thing. But I think really healthy kind of, I think their outlook on life is really good. My youngest, not so much. He's still quite a sugar addict, but he doesn't get it. But it's, oh, Dad, can't we? So, but I think that on the whole, they kind of manage it. I am trying to persuade my wife if she would like to join me on the meat experience, and she keeps saying why, and so it's a fair question. So we'll see how that goes in due course. But I think they're very supportive. Actually, they do roll their eyes every now and again. Oh, Dad, on another one of his crazy things. I tend to kind of commit to these things hardcore, so I'm not the half-hearted sort of person. So I think they're enjoying it.
Well, that's good that they support you in it, and I'm sure they see the health benefits that you're feeling. I'm sure they see the big difference in you. And I know it's really hard with family, though, to get them to switch over to eating that way.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And extended family as well, so it's always, go to my mom's or whatever. It's, kind of Greek style cooking doesn't, there's always meat, but there's also a lot of other things. And so, I mean, again, she tries to support it, but, there's always the little, are you sure you can't eat food? I'm like, no, this is fine, thank you. So we do have a little bit of that, but that's, and my brother who we visited in Canada, he's quite persuaded by it, but I think he's just trying to figure out, he's a bus driver. So he's not kind of the wealthiest income bracket. And I think he's trying to figure out how to attack that. They've been keto for a few years as well. And I think he's quite persuaded by it. I'd like him to figure out. So I don't know, in due course, maybe he'll be able to join me on this, health kick. And the other thing for me that is also, just as a conversation thing, is finding out about how cattle are restoring the environment and using cattle to restore grasslands. Because here it's quite a big thing. Where a big chunk of South Africa is in a very dry, very arid rainfall area. There's Alan Savory. I don't know. Some of his experiments. My mom's cousin, my uncle, he farms in a very dry part of the country. He farms sheep, and one of his neighbors has actually started this regenerative agriculture, and the difference in the 2 farms is actually marked. And I've pointed it out to my uncle, and he agrees. It's amazing the difference that 10 years of this style of farming has made, but hasn't changed. Still does things the same way. So I hope one day to persuade my cousins and stuff that they can also farm that way. But I've really kind of keyed in on that side of things. A lot of the talk, cattle are killing the world. Cattle burps, and actually rubbish. And that's also kind of why I've tried to buy from these, the rancher, the farmer that I've found who can deliver, is because he's supporting this regenerative agriculture style, grass-fed. And the cattle, I think his farm is looking good. I've only met the farmer on his deliveries. I'd like to go to the farms and see, but it's a bit far to drive and not in the short term. But I think for me, that's also a really important thing, because I think one of the criticisms I keep coming across with, how can you eat meat? It's destroying the world. Well, let's just ask that question again. And so being able to engage people, from like a reasonable basis, and just ask the question. So what informs your decision? Why do you think cattle are doing that? Don't you mean like grass-fed cattle? Are you talking about the same thing I'm talking about? And so you can engage with them. And I think for me, that's quite important, so we can, and I just can see this world where, if more people were eating properly grown meat, we could make the cost of the grass-fed and the regenerative meat cheaper. The normal meats that you buy are still yummy, and I still eat those. I think they're still healthier than any other option. But if we could all get that, then the supply and demand thing would bring the price down, and then the money would also be going to the farmers. That they're not going to be selling their stuff at a really low cost, and then it gets all processed and then resold to people as lasagnas and things, which are quite expensive, but the farmer gets nothing out of it. So for me, there's two aspects to it, and I think really finding out about that has made kind of also been part of my motivation. I think we can change the world for the better. I know it sounds a bit grand, but that's kind of part of my motivation.
No, I totally agree with that. I love supporting local, and I think it's just better for everybody all around. And I hope one day we can see, the cost of locally sourced regenerative agriculture meat, go down, hopefully.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I'd love to buy more of it. If I could eat only that, I would, but economics dictate, so we'd have to do that. And then, and I guess flying around in little airplanes, they do burn a bit of fuel, so you have to compensate for that somehow. So I think that could be my lowering my carbon footprint is eating cattle, so properly raised cattle. So that's quite good.
That's great. Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to share your story with everybody else.
Okay, that's great. I really appreciate the opportunity. I really hope I can inspire other people just to have a go at this. It really can transform them. And it's not forever. I mean, after 6 months, a year, whatever, people can think about whatever else they want, they can go back to it. I mean, for me at this point, I wouldn't see me changing. But I mean, who knows? The world changes so fast. 3 weeks ago, who knew I'd be shut in my house for 3 weeks? It's just, that's how it is.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much. You too. Have a great day. Where are you? Are you in California?